going to switch it up a little bit this week. Try to get the rankings out earlier for you guys. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays are now going to be our rankings days. We'll move buy, sell to Thursdays so we can do our start sits on Friday and get you those final tiers. In today's video, we are going to go over running back rankings. We're going to hit from 1 all the way to 36 so we can get your RB1s and 2s and some potential flex options for you. Please drop any start sit questions down below for me. I would love to help you out. If you are new or haven't got to it yet, please like and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch on my road to 100 subscribers. With that all out of the way, let's get into this week's running back rankings. As a friendly reminder, we're doing all of this in half-point PPR. And at the top of the mountain, number 1, we have Jonathan Taylor at home against the Jets. Since having Taylor as a buy for me in week 5, he has finished as RB2, RB2, and then back-to-back RB7 finishes. Not bad. He gets the Jets this week, which means his floor is 100 yards and a score. At number 2, we have Austin Eckler going on the road to face the Eagles. Pound for pound is averaging 5 yards a carry, and that's not even where he is the most dangerous. He scared owners a little bit with the news of a potential hip injury last week, then proceeded to start himself, posted on Twitter, and went off again. He is the RB3 on the season, and he's already had his bye. We move next to number 3, and it is Dalvin Cook going on the road against Baltimore. Cook has been far less productive so far this season than owners would have hoped when they spent a premium pick on him, probably in the top 3. However, the big games are coming, and it starts this week against the Ravens. We move on, and the next player is Alvin Kamara at home against the Falcons. I do have some concern with this offense with either Taysom Hill or Trevor Siemian at the forefront. However, it's not like Jameis Winston was a big threat for defenses. Besides, he gets now a bottom 5 defense in Atlanta over the last 4 weeks. The last player in our top 5 is Aaron Jones going on the road to Arrowhead to face the Chiefs. Jones responded from his bust in week 6 with a huge effort and a top 5 finish versus the Cardinals. In a shootout with Kansas City, the sky is the limit for him. He'll score at least once and is likely to hit close to 100 yards of total offense. We move on to Darrell Henderson Jr. Here at 6. He plays the Tennessee Titans at home. Henderson is the RB11 on the year, and he has missed a game. Ever since that, he's had just 1 game outside the top 28, and he has 4 finishes in the top 20, along with 2 finishes in the top 5. 2 of my week 5 buys in the top 6, I will take it. Up next at number 7 is Najee Harris at home against the Bears. Najee has not finished outside of the top 11 since week 1, which is an incredible feat for the rookie who can do it all. The Steelers are going to continue to feed him, and the guy has 84 touches in the last 3 games. We move on to number 8, and it is Nick Chubb on the road against Cincinnati. Now, last week in a tough matchup, Chubb certainly busted. However, since he did not look great last week against the Jets, so there is certainly hope. He's going to see a ton of volume in what should be a division slugfest. Same game, other side of the coin. Joe Mixon is our 9th ranked player against Cleveland. We do not fear the matchup as the Browns are allowing 23 points a game to rushers over the last 2 weeks, and right now Mixon is rolling with 6 touchdowns in his last 5. After an inexplicable loss to the Jets, expect the Bengals to come out angry and firing on all cylinders to Mixon's benefit. Zeke Elliott is the last player in our top 10 at home against the Broncos. Now, Zeke was shut down versus a Minnesota team that was determined to stop the run even if they lost. Spoiler alert, they did. Denver has allowed 116 points to running backs over the last 3 games, so they will not have that luxury even if they wanted it. We are assuming our 11th ranked player comes back from injury after a couple weeks to rest that injured ankle, and it's Saquon Barkley at home against the Raiders. The Giants could play it safe and leave Barkley out one more week since they have a bye in week 10. However, if he ends up playing, the Raiders have allowed 28 points a game to backs over the last 4, so there is massive upside. Continue to watch reports on Saquon. Our last RB1 is Damian Harris on the road against Carolina. He has taken a stranglehold on that RB1 job and he refuses to let it go. After stonewalling backs over the course of most of the season, the Panthers have faltered of late and have allowed 21 points a game to backs over the last 2, so he has a chance to hit big. We move on to Elijah Mitchell at home against the Cardinals. Mitchell has done nothing but impress since returning from his injury a couple weeks ago. No backs are threatening touches for him, so his workload is solid. The Cardinals have stifled backs all year. However, he has back-to-back 100-yard games, and we bet on his touchdown upside. Up next at 14, it is Chuba Hubbard at home against the Patriots. Chuba had 24 rushes last week, just after Coach Matt Rule preached the need for more volume in the running game. That is not going to change against the Patriots this week. At 15, it is Michael Carter on the road against Indianapolis. Carter has exploded over the last 2 weeks and finished as Week 8's RB1 overall. The Colts front 7 has been merciless to backs, but Carter has 26 carries and 23 targets in his last 2 games. That is not volume that you pass up on. With Mike White starting again, I expect a ton of opportunities for Carter. Next up, we have another projected starter coming back from injury, and that is Clyde Edwards-Helaire of the Chiefs against Green Bay at home. CEH should return after his 3-week absence and gets a decent matchup here in Green Bay. There is a little bit of a risk due to the slight unknown with his workload, but I'm assuming he's 100% if they're going to play him, and the Chiefs need help in the worst way. We move on to Josh Jacobs on the road against the Giants, and he's here at 17. Jacobs should be good to go and be close to 100%, and the Giants allow nearly 27 points a game to backs. He's got back-to-back finishes in the top 18, and he has scored in 3 straight games. We move next to James Robinson at home against the Buffalo Bills. Robinson is day-to-day with a bruised heel, but I think that he plays this week. The matchups don't get worse than this, but before his injury in last week's game, J-Rob had 4 straight games with 18-plus points, so he can't possibly fall any farther than this. We move on to 19 at Zach Moss on the road against the Jaguars. Miami was able to keep it close against Buffalo last week, so we didn't get quite the workload that we were hoping from Moss. However, he still racked up 6 catches and had a decent day. Now he gets Jacksonville, so I expect double-digit carries in this one, along with his normal passing game work. The final player in our top 20 is Khalil Herbert on the road against Pittsburgh. Khalil takes a hit this week due to a horrible bottom 7 matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, he's averaging over 20 touches a game in his last 4, so he could still smoke this ranking. Next up at 21, it is Chase Edmonds on the road against the 49ers. Edmonds finally looked healthy last week, and he did me right by scoring his first touchdown of the season after I called it. San Francisco has a solid run defense, but Chase does work through the air too, so he should be fine. We move on to 22, and it is Melvin Gordon III going on the road to face the Cowboys. Gordon is still holding off the rookie, but lost a fumble in the 4th quarter to give Washington a chance to come back at the end. Now that might not be all it takes for Williams to start siphoning more work, but it certainly doesn't help his situation. This week could definitely be telling. We move now to 23, and it is Myles Gaskin at home against the Houston Texans, and thank the Lord I finally got it right on Gaskin. Averaging 17 touches since Malcolm Brown went down, I am buying the volume against a bottom 10 Texans D to backs. We now move to 24 and have Javonte Williams there on the road against the Cowboys. This is a difficult matchup with the Cowboys allowing just 21 points a game to backs. However, Williams is averaging 10 touches a game, and the Broncos formula isn't changing anytime soon. Next up at 25, it's Boston Scott. He goes at home against the Los Angeles Chargers. Scott was the surprise of the week, looking like the #1 back in Philly with Miles Sanders out. On 19 carries, he has 84 yards and 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games. The Chargers are a bottom 5 defense against backs in the league, and this is a great matchup for him to smash again. And at number 26, it is James Conner on the road against the 49ers. With just 5 carries last week, owners were very thankful that Conner has that awesome touchdown upside. It doesn't seem to be going anywhere, so continue to ride that wave. Up next at 27, it's Cordero Patterson on the road against the Saints. And while this is a brutal matchup for Patterson, Carolina was as well, and he didn't seem to mind. His dual threat ability decreases his chances of busting. We move to 28, and it is A.J. Dillon on the road against Kansas City. Dillon looked absolutely spectacular on Thursday night, punching Arizona in the mouth continuously. I think because of that, he gets a larger workload, and the matchup with the Chiefs is a +1, so that doesn't hurt either. At 29, it is D'Ernest Johnson. He gets Cincinnati on the road. It seems there's always going to be 2 backs in this Cleveland offense, no matter who ends up being healthy. He certainly has touchdown upside in this one. Tony Pollard gets Denver at home, and he is our 30th ranked player. Pollard saw under 10 carries for the first time in 6 games last week, but I don't expect that to be the case again against Denver. Then we move to 31, and it is Devin Singletary. He's on the road against Jacksonville, and you could certainly do worse than 10 touches in Buffalo's high-flying offense, which is what Singletary is currently averaging. With a run-positive game script coming up, he's going to be decent. At 32, we have a combination of Adrian Peterson and Jeremy McNichols. They both play the Rams on the road. I am assuming that Peterson slides right in and sees 12 to 15 carries. However, that might just be the Viking in me hoping more than actual reality. Stay tuned. If not, McNichols is going to see decent usage. Next up, at 33, we have Mike Davis. He gets the New Orleans Saints on the road. After dropping an absolute dud in Week 7, Davis got back to his usual workload where he saw 14 touches and racked up 66 yards. His passing ability helps him versus the Saints in this one. Then we move to number 34, and it is Kenneth Gainwell at home against the Chargers. Gainwell had 26 opportunities over the last 2, which is solid. He has decent upside because of his pass-catching ability, and he should see work earlier in this one rather than the garbage time possessions that he had last week. The final 2 players before we get to our notable omissions. At 35, it is Ty Johnson on the road against the Colts. He has 20 touches in his last 2 weeks with 136 receiving yards. If you're still looking at this point, it is hard to pass up that type of production at this level of desperation. The final player we have is Nyheim Hines at home against the Jets. He's got 8 targets and 9 carries in his last 2 games, so he's getting some decent work. And this offense needs all the pass catching help it can get as injuries continue to pile up for the Colts. The 2 notable omissions we have, first is Samaje Perine at home against the Browns, and after back-to-back games seeing 11 carries in each, he had a gooser last week. The other player I have is Jordan Howard at home against the Chargers. While we love the matchup, I feel like last week was more a mirage than anything against a poor Lions team. We do not want to chase the points here. And that is all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. Please drop any start-sit questions down below or hit me up on the Sleeper app. I would love to connect with you. If you're new or haven't got to it yet, please like and subscribe and help us get to that 100 subscriber mark. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham O'Pats, and we'll see you next time.